we'll argue forever, Cenk, but you have to at least agree on the reality that there were no new wars under Trump.
Some areas I actually agree. And this is just me speculating. You're right. No one knows for sure. But I do think that Trump's stature and also the fact that he's a bit of a wild card and you don't know whether he's going to be a rational.
Charlie Kirk is back with the Young Turks once again. Charlie Kirk schools them on all of the points that they bring up. He has really good measured responses. Let's see this conversation go down, and let's also see if Cenk Uygur can control himself and not blow a gasket at the mere mention of Donald Trump.
Okay, good one.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the vulnerabilities on the right. You know, one thing that I've noticed you say, other members of conservative media say, is that, you know, the female vote is a lot more difficult for conservatives, right? Or for the Republican Party. That the unmarried women are more likely to vote for Democrats. That's the problem. We need to get women married and they'll change their political views. But honestly, I wonder if you realize statements like the one you made at a Turning Point USA event. You said something along the lines of, well, women are past their prime once they turn 30, right? Do you ever wonder whether those kinds of messages might actually be, you know, a little offensive to women, and then they might think that represents the entirety of the Republican Party? You know, it's not exactly the most welcoming message for women.
Well, I mean, first, what I said specific, it's close to what I said, but what I said is as women get older, the dating pool shrinks, which is obvious. And I think you would agree with that. So, I mean, unfortunately, that's the biological reality we live in. But yeah, look, I mean, we do a big women's summit. I think that our agenda is very popular for all people. But it's not a new phenomenon that young women lean liberal. But certainly since the, you know, reversal of Roe versus Wade and bring it back to the States, Democrats have enjoyed some, I think, short-lived popularity with young female voters for sure.
Now, right here at the convention, you said that all men should vote for Trump.
Well, I didn't say, well, I do think all men should vote. Yes. Well, I said that you're not a man if you don't vote for Trump.
Yeah, that's even worse, of course.
Yeah.
So look.
I mean, come on, Cenk, look at that. I mean, can your candidate do that?
Yeah. No.
No.
And so, look, I'm honest.
Who's your preferred candidate?
Oh, I would never.
You think Bernie could do this? If Bernie got shot, would Bernie do this?
Look, I hope nobody ever gets shot.
How about Gretchen?
We never find out. We never find out. Hey, Gretchen Whitmer almost got kidnapped by you guys. So, she was pretty courageous on that too. So, okay. Anyway,
but do you think Gavin Newsom would do this? He got shot. He would run quick away if Gavin Newsom got shot.
So, but
I'm giving you a hard time.
I know, Charlie. Look, I said that Trump that day was courageous.
You were legit. That's why I'm here today. Is because you were like one of the honest guys on the left that was like, okay, that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, no question. He did a great job, and I love when the crowd chanted USA.
Wait a minute. Cenk actually gave Donald Trump some credit and called him courageous? Color me shocked. I am surprised that Cenk gave any sort of credit to Donald Trump.
USA, because the president had just been saved, right? And so former president, but we still call former presidents President Trump, etc. And that was a great moment. He says, fight, fight, fight. They say USA, USA. I love that. That makes me proud of America, okay? Now, having said that, you know that has nothing to do with policy. So if you're a man who cares about fill in the blank, universal health care, paid family leave, higher minimum wage, which leads to higher wages overall. You care about fighting inflation. You care about getting corruption out of politics. Why the hell would Trump doing that affect my vote at all?
That's a super fair question. And what I was basically getting at is that if this doesn't, as a man, earn you some political points of respect, that's what the essence of what I was saying. But of course, that you're electing a president, a set of policies in 4 years, and that's a fair critique.
Okay, so I want to ask you about Ronna McDaniel, because you led the charge against her at the
Mitt Romney. I'm kidding.
Okay, you can call it whatever you want. Hey, listen, in a sense, I'm leading the charge against Jamie Harrison at the DNC. So
and one of us has been successful.
Well, give me time. Give me a minute.
I'm rooting for you, man.
Okay, so look, now even Jake Tapper today basically called Jamie Harrison a liar at the DNC, because he is a liar. He's been lying the whole time, and he's lying about the Ohio issue now.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today.
What was your guys' beef with Ronna McDaniel?
Well, first of all, the grassroots didn't have a seat at the table, which I think you could sympathize with. The Democrat Party, I don't think, has a voice for the grassroots right now. And in fact, if I was advising Democrats, I'd be like, your power is in the Bernie Sanders wing of your party. Like, why are you not tapping into that? not into this like old stodgy neoliberal warmongering, weak Bush Cheney version of the Democrat Party. But anyway, what am I to give advice to Democrats, right? But no, my critique of Ronna McRomney was that, yes, there's a track record of losing. Fine. Okay, I've made mistakes in the past. We're trying to all adjust. More importantly, though, is that conservative grassroots did not have a seat at the table. Is that we have an agenda that we felt was not being represented, not being listened to. And then there were some like very wonky parliamentarian things I think that you would agree with. And this like Robert Rules of Order, like how these parties operate, right?
Yeah,
they steamroll the little guy. They steamroll the states that aren't as important to fundraising. And we found that to be objectionable. And so we Donald Trump made the ultimate decision, but we led a very, very heated campaign against Ronna, and ultimately that was successful.
But hold on, one quick follow-up, Anna.
Sure.
So, Charlie, here's what I don't understand about the Republicans. On the Democratic side, I think it's fairly clear because the establishment corporate Democrats have all the money. So the Bernie side has grassroots money, grassroots energy, but that's only earned. You have to actually deliver, otherwise the grassroots don't give you the money, right? So that's why the DNC says, well, I can't count on that because I'm corporate, I'm serving these donors, I'll never get the grassroots money, so I'm gonna halfway give up on that, and so I'm gonna be purely corporate, right? So on the Democratic side, it's really stark, right? But on the Republican side, the grassroots also has tons of donor money. So why do they object to the grassroots? They have no reason to.
That's an interesting point. It's because of their values.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the grassroots represent a value system that the Vichy French Republicans do not believe in, which is that we believe neoliberalism has been a failed experiment in the modern era. I think you actually might agree with part of that, both of you guys.
I definitely agree with that.
Definitely.
But this is the thing I don't get, and this is why, for the first time, I find the convention, the Republican convention, so fascinating because I do see this growing faction of Republican voters who are headed in the direction of economic populism, right? They like Social Security, they like Medicare, they want better wages for workers, they want protectionism in regard to trade and tariffs. And I find that also fascinating, but at the same time, you seem to be empathetic to that message and to those desires by some Republican voters. At the same time, like on your show, you had this one segment.
Not a fan of Social Security.
Yeah, so
but let me clarify.
Wildly popular even among Republicans.
I'm just not a fan of things that aren't properly funded or go bankrupt.
So would you be in favor of lifting the cap on Social Security taxes in order to fund Social Security?
Educate me what that would look like.
So it's
real quick, like leftists and Democrats seem to think that Republicans are against like all social programs or all of these things. It's not so much like, listen, I'm not against getting $1 million, right? I'm not against having $1 million in my bank account. Who would be against that? However, if the government was like, we're just going to give everyone $1 million, I would be against that because that would be disastrous for our economy. Inflation and prices, everything would just go up. And that's pretty much the issue with a lot of these programs. It's not that we're like against the programs themselves. Maybe some people are. But it's not so much the idea, I should say. It's not so much the idea that people are against. It's the way that they want to be implemented. Like, yeah, healthcare, someone having access to healthcare. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I believe our current system is not good and needs to be improved on. So yeah, improvements to healthcare, I'm all for it. Giving people access to healthcare, I'm all for it. But I'm not for socialist healthcare. I am not for Obamacare, all these socialist healthcares like in other countries. I am not for that. And that's what these people on the left and these Democrats, they don't seem to understand.
Around $174,000, if I remember right.
So like rich people shouldn't get Social Security effectively?
No, not at all. They should definitely get it.
Everyone gets it.
Everybody should get it.
Regardless of age? Or
No. Everybody in terms of income, right? But because universal programs work better. Everybody buys into it. Because if the rich don't get it, they'll kill it. That's usually how it works.
But how is that any different than...
No. Hold on.
Getting taxed for Social Security past a certain income, and every year it changes. So, for instance, let's say you're making $200,000 a year. After about $174,000,
the FICA tax no longer
they
applies.
stop taxing you on Social Security.
Okay.
So
yeah, and I'd have to think about that. That sounds like probably a good idea, but I'd have to like look at the counter argument.
Okay.
I mean, but look, as far as what my critique of Social Security is that it is going to go bankrupt soon, and it has been a lot of series of promises funded by debts and deficits. But yes, we have a moral obligation to fulfill the contract that we have with workers that have paid into it for quite some time. And so, but we're fooling ourselves if we act as if this thing's going to be around forever. At the current pace, that's just not correct.
Okay, it definitely can be if all you do is lift the cap.
Okay, I'll take your word at it. I'm not in the weeds of, Social Security policy wonkery.
Yeah, no problem. So let me see if I can find more agreement.
So wait, what Cenk wants is just to lift this cap on taxing for Social Security, so they just want us to all pay more into this system that's failing? Like what? A lot of these Democrats, their solutions just give more money to the government. That's not always the answer. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying. Let's continue.
Paid family leave. 84% of Americans agree with it. 74% of Republican voters agree with it. 12 weeks off for a mom after.
That's what we do at Turning Point.
Yeah.
We do 3 months family leave.
That's exactly what we do at TYT.
So we're another point of agreement.
Okay, but we can't get corporate Republicans or corporate Democrats to say yes.
Well, I think either Rubio or Romney pushed this. You guys could correct me. Yeah,
Romney
great,
did.
my favorite guy. But I'd have to look at what the European model does. But if we're actually, and there's abuses, of course there are. But yes, I mean, again, I'm not like a huge fan of like more government programs all the time. Just that's my disposition. But how about this? Instead of $200 billion to Ukraine, $200 billion to say that moms can stay with their babies for 12 weeks.
I mean,
we would definitely.
Okay,
yes.
then we have agreement.
Okay, because look, I think Russia did invade Ukraine.
They were provoked.
Now, all right, we can get into that disagreement.
I'm more based on war than you are.
No. Look,
You're
okay,
neoliberal now. I'm giving you a hard time.
No, let me ask you the same
They
question.
were provoked, though. Come on.
Charlie, let me ask you the same question I asked Giuliani last time. So Trump keeps saying, and you guys all agree, oh my God, if Trump was president, we wouldn't have any of these wars. You say that?
Well, it's not speculative, Cenk. He was president and we didn't have these wars.
Okay.
So it's not.
But he says it's because they know that not to mess with me.
The because is a guess. The point is you have to agree for 4 years we didn't have the wars. The because could be because of his stature, it could be because of threats, it could be because of relationships or friendships. That's all a guess. I don't know and you don't know. We only know what happened for 4 years, which is no new wars first time in 40 years.
So, but he keeps saying, because they know that I'm tough. Does that mean that if Russia invaded Ukraine on Trump's watch, that Trump would have attacked Russia?
Well, but they didn't. I don't know the answer to that. So he is making an argument that they didn't invade because of our big military peace through strength, and I threatened to bomb the Kremlin. Maybe that's true, or maybe it's that he had the cojones to have a Helsinki summit and was attacked by his own intel agencies. And Donald Trump looked in the camera and they said, "Well, do you not trust the CIA?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't trust the CIA." Which was totally true, by the way. So I don't know. Like we're guessing as to the why, but we do know the what. Here's the what. Under Biden, we do have more war, and war is terrible. Under Trump, we had no war. And so...
All right, here we go. Cenk's getting... The TDS in Cenk is being activated by Charlie Kirk. This is why I said at the beginning, I'm surprised Cenk gave any credit to Donald Trump, because anytime someone gives credit, like Charlie Kirk here, to Donald Trump and compares Donald Trump to Joe Biden... Cenk gets absolutely triggered. His TDS gets set off. So I'm ready for this bomb to go off.
The why, we'll argue forever, Cenk, but you have to at least agree on the reality that there were no new wars under Trump.
Some areas I actually agree. And this is just me speculating. You're right. No one knows for sure.
Game.
But I do think that Trump's stature and also the fact that he's a bit of a wild card and you don't know whether he's going to be a rational actor did dissuade people like Putin from, I'll give you that
thing, right?
No, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do have a very specific question on something Trump did that could have led to a disastrous war. Luckily it didn't. But the Iran nuclear deal, right? The Iran nuclear deal prevented Iran from developing nuclear weapons. And it had a way of ensuring, like, it wasn't just between the United States and Iran. There were other countries in the international community who signed onto that deal, and Iran allowed for members of that community to go in and check to make sure that they were not developing nuclear weapons. Trump took that, ripped it up. And then for a while, Iran still followed through with the deal, even though Trump ripped it up. They didn't need to. And then after a while, they're like, you know what? there's a lot of antagonism toward us. We're going to develop the nuclear weapons. And so they started enriching uranium again. Then you have the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, which, that was aggressive, and that could have led to an even bigger disaster. There's already been some retaliation by Iran toward our troops as a result of that. So can you at least acknowledge that there were at least some areas where Trump was belligerent in regard to international policy?
Yes, and the argument that his camp would make, again, I'm not a spokesperson for Trump, okay? I'm just an admirer, a friend, and an advocate, is that because of the hawkishness in certain elements, that it created peace. And it's hard to disagree with that. I'm not a fan of trying to go to war with Iran. I don't think the Iranian regime is moral or good, but I have a consistent mantra that has been developing over the last decade, and I think a lot of Americans are with me. Foreign abstractions mean far less than pressing domestic crises. And so it's just like this war with Iran is a weird, fanatical obsession with some people in my party that are here right now, like Senator Lindsey Graham. And it's insane, and it's weird, and it's destructive to our own country. And I speak about it both publicly and privately. And you know who also is sympathetic when I'm saying? JD Vance. And so that's a fact.
Well, so I want to ask you about that as well. But so you mentioned Ukraine. We've given $300 billion to Israel over all these years. Do you want to stop giving money to Israel?
No, I don't. I think it's not the same thing. Happy to tell you why. And I've made the argument before. First of all, I will agree. It is deserving of explanation why the aid to Israel went from 14 billion to 26 billion just like magically overnight. That's like, again, I'm like super Israel, like, guys, come on. Like, you just can't just make up numbers and just start. But no, I will say this, as someone who is a believer in a place for American Jewry to have a country and a state, I do believe that it is worthy of some form of aid. If it's repaid, if it's in American arms, again, I'm not a policy wonk, guys, on that stuff. But I do think that protecting a nation of Israel in a time of crisis is not the same as assisting Ukraine.
Let me ask you something even more specific in regard to our aid to Israel.
We're throwing a ton of money at Ukraine. It's been going on for what, 2 years now? And it's been billions of dollars at this point. It's like, how have they not been able to stop Russia with billions of dollars thrown at you? And at what point do we just go, you know what, screw it? People are like, oh, it's going to affect the whole world. Okay, well, why can't we just adapt to it? I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I mean, what I do know is that we can't just keep throwing billions and billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine. We don't know where any of this money is going. Is Zelensky even using this money correctly? How is he not been able to win this war with billions and billions of dollars given to him? That's my big question with that.
The United States has not had a budget surplus since 2001. That was literally the last time we had a budget surplus. Israel had a budget surplus in 2022. Okay, the pandemic didn't matter. They still
that's a very good argument.
Right. So
I can't disagree.
That American taxpayers should fund the bombs that Israel is dropping on Gaza is ridiculous to me. But
so you mentioned JD Vance. You're an advocate for JD Vance. Tell me why you're excited about him.
He's a friend, so I'm super biased. But I mean, he's a younger person on the ticket. I think you guys can agree if Biden remains, which you don't think he will. And I want to pick your brain about, like, actually, I'm super interested. Is that we have 81, 78, 59 is the ages of the three people in contention, and now you have a 39-year-old. So I think it's an interesting new wrinkle. And he also is not a neoliberal, and we very well could have had a neoliberal on the ticket. And he is a legit conservative that understands the America First agenda that you see here on full display. And so I'm hopeful that this new viewpoint is going to be permanent in the Republican Party.
Are you worried that his stance on abortion, which is no exceptions in rape and incest, will be very damaging to the campaign?
No, I don't. I think he has said that he agrees with the president. The president sent it back to the states. I think he's been really fair, and now it's a joint ticket. And so he will harmonize his views with that at the top of the ticket.
Okay. And if you guys are populists, how do you feel about the giant corporate tax cuts that Trump gave the last time around? And then this time around, he's saying he's going to do even more corporate tax cuts.
Well, it depends on... So part of it was really good. Part of it was a small business relief and tax cut. Some of it was for families and for workers. I think I could agree, of all the legislative priorities that we as conservatives were pushing for, making sure that Google was going to have a lower effective corporate tax rate was not the best use of our legislative energy. But I do, and you know this, I'm a conservative, so I have a disposition towards more money in private sector pockets is better than public sector pockets. However, this is the evolution of populism, is that we do not like centralized power, and you must be consistent that centralized power in government or centralized power in corporations are both bad. And
okay, now we're getting somewhere.
You must be consistent, and especially when you have a small subset of multi-trillion-dollar corporations that are largely unaccountable in the tech space. And you've had your own tech wars, guys, and so have we. And you know, for example, being censored, being banned, and all that. So yeah, like, I mean, cutting the taxes of Goldman Sachs is like, I can't say that I'm like, it's my number one issue to oppose, but how about you guys go deliver actual results for the voters that put you in there in the first place?
Okay.
Yeah, no, Charlie Kirk is absolutely right. And Cenk Uygur and these leftists, like, they all have this obsession with taxing corporations. Like, they think all the problems will be solved if we just tax corporations more. On one hand, they'll call corporations greedy, right? Oh, they're greedy, they're selfish. Well, okay, they're greedy, right? Oh, so do you think if the government just takes more of their money, they're all of a sudden going to be more generous with their money to their workers? Do you think that's what happens? No. They're going to look for more loopholes, or they're going to just pass it down to their workers or their customers or what have you, because they're greedy. So, I mean, and this is just human nature. It doesn't have to be big corporations. Regular, average, everyday people are like this too. If you're gonna find ways to give more, like less of your money out, you're gonna find ways. So yeah, taxing corporations more and more, I don't think is the answer here. But they always use that to demonize Donald Trump, like, oh, he gave tax cuts to these corporations, that's bad. And it's like, even though our economy was like thriving under Donald Trump, like it did well under Donald Trump, it wasn't devastating. I think having the government take more of people's money, even corporations, I think that's more harmful and to the economy. That's just my opinion, obviously. What do you guys think?
Patriot media or people's media and and do a bunch of attack stuff against. What I'm getting at is, at the essence of the Citizens United case, and I know your audience knows this very well, was that, is it constitutional to write a criticism? Is it a campaign finance violation if I were to write a book against Hillary Clinton? And they argued, they said, yeah. And so, but that's not more than media. We're talking about, how about people? Let's take a step back, okay? What if Taylor Swift were to come out, theoretically, and she would say, go vote for Joe Biden? Is that an in-kind political contribution for his campaign?
So you can't stop that. But Charlie, you don't have to stop that. You're saying, well, currently they could fund media, and they do, right? And they could fund the politicians and the super PACs. Well, then they have three different massive ways of influencing the politicians. So why don't we knock out the two that are the most direct, giving directly to politicians and the super PACs? Then you've got the media issue. But at that point, and it's not that it's impossible, but they have to say, like, let's say they want a giant corporate tax cut for Google, that we don't want it, you don't want, right? And so then they go, oh, we have a show here that tells you how great it is to do tax cuts for giant corporations.
Yeah, stuff, right?
Right, it's not going to work. It's a lot less likely to work than, here, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, take a check from Google. Now give me a goddamn tax cut.
Yeah, but let's make sure we understand, though, that the direct, if you have to go, I understand, but the direct money in politics, though, is more limited than I think you're presenting it. It's like $2,700 limits you can give to super PACs. The super PAC technically is supposed to have some distance from candidates.
Yeah,
no, come on.
No, Cenk, I agree. It's a bunch of BS, right? Okay. It's a bunch of nonsense because they share data and all that stuff. But then but do you see any concern that this is regulating speech?
No.
And can I just make a point about the media angle? Look, I think that your point is a legitimate one. I think that your point is even more legitimate in an era where we had like 4 networks, and those 4 networks basically dominated the entire message in the country. Media is so much more diverse now, diversified, I should say.
And it's harder to control.
It's harder to control. There's a lot more competition. There's a lot more independent media. And so the idea of corporate interests buying elections through the media, it's just a lot harder to do in today's era, I don't
know if you're getting a rap sign or not. If not, I can stay. But
no, last question.
I'm sorry.
Last answer. Go ahead.
Okay, no, you have a last question for me?
No, that was the one.
Oh yeah.
I just
So-
made a point.
Yeah,
You
no,
have
but
that
okay. But look, I want to agree with you guys on something. I think it's repulsive and disgusting because I have things I want to see get done. And when for example, I want to see immigration restricted to this country. You guys don't agree, whatever. But I get blocked by the donor class, and I get by institutional corporate that want a flow of cheap labor into the country. Now, it used to be a left-wing issue, actually more than a right-wing issue, to restrict immigration, and Bernie Sanders would have that. That's changed. But so I sympathize with you. For another example, I'm trying to say, like, let's not send money to Ukraine, and I'm up against all these institutional interests. I'm just not convinced that regulating speech is a good path to go down, and that's what that decision was ultimately was decided upon.
Yeah, so
but you might be right.
well, I'll take you might be right, and
No,
and
I'm just saying
there's a
you-
difference between
You
speech.
might be right.
Yeah, you and I can have a certain amount of speech. When somebody gives $1 billion, they get a lot more speech, right?
No, for sure. But hold on, hear me out. But your platform is worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Well, but I'm saying no.
This was a pretty good civilized discussion from Charlie Kirk to the Young Turks. I'm surprised Cenk Uygur didn't blow a gasket at the mere mention of Donald Trump. He didn't pull a slowly I turn at the mere defense of Donald Trump like he usually does. I think Charlie Kirk answered their points well. I think he did a great job. I have some more Charlie Kirk stuff right here in the left-hand corner and more Young Turk stuff on the bottom left-hand corner in case you want to see a good Cenk Uygur meltdown.